Part 42. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 411. Chapter 411 The Puppet Retreats. Xiao Zi immediately caught up with Rongxiu. He couldn't catch up today. If he wanted to see his son in the future, he had a hunch that it would be difficult. Rongxiu flew away into the deep mountains. He didn't know how far he had escaped. He slowly stopped, found a mountain, lowered himself and sat on the mountain. At this moment, he didn't know how painful and confused his heart was. He is a joke. The man who robbed his mother and killed his mother called him his father for more than 300 years, but the first time he saw him, the real father attacked him secretly and wanted to kill him. Rongxiu cried stupidly. After a long time, a big hand patted his shoulder. "Son, Dad has avenged your mother, go back with Dad," Xiao Zi's voice sounded. Rongxiu was startled. He raised his head and looked at the man in a cloak. He stood up, took a few steps back, and said in a cold voice, "Since you have avenged your revenge, take your people and leave. Don't come out to harm the world of immortality again. I will not leave with you, nor will I return clan." Thinking of Rongnantian sitting on the cliff like a puppet, Xiao Zi could push him off the cliff with just a finger. If you fall off a cliff, can you still survive? Xiao Zi looked at Rongxiu's expressionless face, and his heart ached. His son had never lived with him for a day since he was a child, so it was understandable that he would not be close to him. Moreover, he attacked him secretly and wanted to kill him. At this time, Xiao Zi felt unspeakable regret and pain in his heart. "Okay, Dad promises you, I will go back and fight off the puppet army." He also knew that Tianyin sect is a heretic of evil spirits and is not ashamed of the righteous monks. If anyone knows that his son's father is a descendant of Tianyin sect and the leader of a sect, wouldn't the son be hunted down by those righteous monks in the world of immortality? He had no choice. He thought that when he was knocked off the boundless cliff by Rongnantian's palm, he was accidentally hung up by a branch on the cliff. There happened to be a hole next to the branch, and it took him a lot of effort to climb in the cave. At that time, he was seriously injured, and the healing elixir was long gone, so he could only recover by adjusting his breath and meditating in the cave. After he felt better, he walked towards the cave, not wanting to run into a corpse. The corpse had a storage ring on its finger, so he went to get it without much thought. Unexpectedly, a black smoke suddenly emerged from the corpse and penetrated into his sea of consciousness. The black smoke was the soul of the corpse. When it encountered him, a monk, it wanted to him away. Fortunately, he used secret techniques to refine the man's soul, but the price he paid was not small. This man turned out to be the previous generation leader of the Tianyin section in the battle 10,000 years ago. He was also knocked off the cliff and hung on the branch, thus saving his life. Then he came in and was stared at by a monster inside. One man and one beast fought until both were injured. He also used a secret method to preserve his soul and wait for the unlucky person to come down. Unexpectedly, this wait lasted 10,000 years, and Xiao Zi was also unlucky. The soul was carrying corpse poison. Even if he won, his body would be poisoned, and his face would be disfigured. In order to save his life, he had to practice the Tianyin sect's exercises. Xiao Zi had no choice but to abolish the original exercises and rebuild them. This is a technique that can only be practiced by the leader of the Tianyin section as a last resort. He became the leader of the Tianyin sect. He stayed in the cave for 300 years, cultivating himself to the point of becoming a before flying down the cliff. Unexpectedly, there was a swamp under the cliff. By coincidence, he killed the monks in the swamp to refine the puppet. At the same time, he sent people out to inquire about Rongnantian. This is how the puppets later attacked the world of cultivating immortals and attacked Chaoyang City. Xiao Zi glanced at Rongxiu, turned around and left before Rongxiu said anything. Rong Xiu looked at Xiao Ziyi's back sadly. Do you blame him? If Rong Nantian hadn't kidnapped his mother, would their father and son get along like this today? Will Rong Nantian lose his life because of this? The root of everything is the situation caused by one person's greed. Thinking about how he never got what he wanted when he kidnapped Yuan. Fortunately, if he really got what he wanted, I'm afraid another tragedy would happen after who knows how many years. Rong Xiu took one last look at Chaoyang City, and then flew deeper into the forest. He will never be able to return to the Rong clan in this life, and he will not be able to face his biological parents. Outside Chaoyang City, the number of puppets was decreasing unknowingly, and the cloaked man finally discovered them, but the sect master was not here, so they did not dare to take any action. The patriarch has an order. Without his order, no one can act without authorization. The cloaked man could only watch helplessly as the puppet was devoured. Lu Fufeng in mid-air and the elders of the Rong clan who came over were looking at the scene outside the city. Yuan also looked at the cloaked man stupidly, just watching their puppet being swallowed. Mujukan, what do they mean? Mujukan shook his head. Little did he know that everyone watched the three people fly away, and no one came back after so long. Just as the puppets were decreasing at the speed of the naked eye, the tall cloaked man, Xiao Zi, came back. He took a look at the blood-eating monster insects that were devouring the puppets. Just when everyone thought he was going to kill everyone, he quickly took out a black bone flute and disappeared without a trace in front of everyone. The monks were dumbfounded again. Is the cloaked man here to perform? The puppet has disappeared, but the monks in Chaoyang City cannot leave yet and are still guarding Chaoyang City. Lu Fufeng touched his smooth chin. He arrived before the three elders of the Rong clan. He could clearly see Rong Nantian and his son and the tall cloaked man when they left. Now only the tall cloaked man is back, and he will retreat as soon as he comes back. If he still can't see clearly that the cloaked man is coming for Rong Nantian, then he is a fool and has lived so many years in vain. He looked at where the Rong clan was, wondering what was going on over there with the Rong clan. In the Rong clan, three elders were sitting in the meeting hall. All three of them had dark faces. What were Rong Nantian and his son doing? If the elder Rong clan left them alone, did they want the Rong clan to decline? Rong Qi, how about the soul lantern I showed you? Are there any differences between the clan leaders and Qiu or soul lanterns? Rong Nanfang, who was wearing a mysterious clan uniform, asked a disciple of the Rong family standing below. Rong Qi gave a salute and said, "Old man, the soul lamps of the clan leader and the fourth elder are both on. It's just that the clan leader's is darker than usual. He is probably recovering from his injuries." "Okay, I got it, let's go down, pay attention, and report anything as soon as possible." The great elder waved to Rong Qi and said. Let him bow to the three elders and hurriedly retreat. Rong Nanfang looked at the second elder and the third elder below and said, "Second brother, third brother, we'd better send someone out to look for them." The second elder Rong Nanchang nodded. Only the third elder, Rong Nansheng, was thinking about something. He just nodded symbolically to express his agreement. At this time, he was thinking about the blood-devouring demonic insects in Yuan's hands. Did he kill the people and contract the blood-devouring demonic insects, or did he destroy them all? It would be a pity to destroy the blood-eating monster insects. If he killed someone under a contract, wouldn't he tell others openly that he killed the person? End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 412. Chapter 412 The Endless Swamp. Yuan was bored in front of the city wall. She found Mujukan and said, "Go and ask the city lord. This puppet is not coming. We can either look for it or leave and just sit here and wait like this. Will they come? And no matter how I look at it, I think the cloaked man is from the wrong tribe. It has been so many days, and all the cloaked men have retreated. The man named Rongnantian and Rongshiu have not come back. I guess they have made peace. That day the cloaked man came back and left without saying a word. Mujukan nodded, entered the city in twos, and went straight to the city lord's mansion. At the door of the city lord's mansion, the door was closed tightly, with 2 rows of guards standing on both sides. There were many monks sitting in the open space at the door. Their cultivation levels were all high, and they probably had the same purpose as him. Mujukan stepped forward, raised his hands to a Yuanying monk and said, "Is this fellow Taoist, the lord of the city, not here?" Chaoyang city lord, who is in the early stage of becoming a god, monks like them from other cities dare not force their way in. The Yuanying monk also saluted him and said, "Here, he is nowhere to be seen. I guess fellow Taoists are here to ask when they can go back, right?" Mujukan nodded, "Yes, we are all guarding outside the city. This puppet doesn't come and there is no follow-up, which is really panicking." Yuanying monk, "No, but we can't help it. They are in the upper city and we are in the lower city. Without their order, we cannot leave." After saying that, the Yuanying monk sighed, and the monks next to him also sighed heavily. Mujukan could only return in vain and return to the base of the city wall outside the city. He explained what happened outside the city lord's mansion and said, "Wanner, why don't we go to the swamp to have a look? If the puppet doesn't come, what will happen? It's not going to be destroyed, we can't wait like this. The top powers of the Mu family and the Yu family are here, and there is no one in the clan who can hold on. In case there is a situation, they cannot quench their thirst with water far away." Yuan of course agreed. After the 2 made arrangements, they flew to the swamp with Yu's and Mu's people. Even if the other monks in Juyo city asked them to go, they would not go. It is exactly what Yuan wants. 20 people came outside the swamp. Yuan took the others into the space. Only she, Mujukan and Yuhairan were outside. The 3 of them are all in the nascent soul stage, and there are blood-eating demonic insects, so they are not afraid. The 3 of them nodded, lifted their legs and walked towards the swamp. What scares monks most in the swamp is not the poisonous gas and miasma, but the poisonous insects and beasts in it. But the poisonous insects and poisonous beasts inside were all captured and made into puppets by the cloaked men. Even so, the 3 of them were still cautious and released their blood-eating demonic insects to surround themselves. The blood-devouring demonic insects are indeed meat grinders. They will never let go of anyone with spiritual energy, and they invisibly opened the way for the 3 of them. Huh? Where are the people? I don't know how long it took, but when Yuan thought of Mujukan and Yuhairan, they disappeared. After searching with her spiritual consciousness to no avail, she had to go alone, but she summoned a little snake and the other 100,000 blood-eating demonic insects. The swamp is endless as far as the eye can see. There are not many tall plants in it, just a few here and there. It is similar to the swamp in Juyo Forest, except that this swamp is larger. It can be found on the map of Kinjao continent. This is the largest and most famous swamp on Kinjao continent, the Infinite Swamp. There are many dangers inside. If you don't pay attention, you will be eaten by poisonous insects and beasts. There is also the swamp. Even if the monks get stuck in it, it will be difficult to escape. There are rumors that the swamp seems to eat people. Yuan didn't quite believe that a lump of mud could eat people. It was probably because the mud in the swamp was very sticky and there were poisonous insects and beasts underneath. If the monk fell in and didn't get out in time, he would be eaten. Rumors are rumors after all. You can't believe them all or not. Anyway, she doesn't take them lightly. Yuan had blood-eating demonic insects to clear the way, and there were also small snakes, so he was not in danger for a while. "Master, look," the little snake saw the blood-eating monster crawling into a swamp. Yuan also stopped and looked at the muddy ground. At this moment, the blood-eating demonic insects were burrowing into the muddy ground. She immediately dodged into the space. Needless to say, the blood-eating demon insect liked something, and there must be someone who had done harm down there. In order to prevent herself from being harmed by the fish in the pond, she still entered the space. Sure enough, through the space, a huge monster beast suddenly emerged from the swamp, resembling a loach. I saw it scurry away more than 10 feet away. Yuan could only see the blood-eating demonic insect emerging from the swamp and chasing the demonic beast. Yuan then stepped out of the space. With a sweep of her consciousness, the demonic beast that had just escaped had only its skeleton left. In a short while, the skeleton was also devoured by the blood-eating demonic insects. After the blood-eating demonic insects finished devouring them, they flew back to Yuan and circled around her. She could feel that they were very happy. Yuan Han, this is why I am so happy, because I have eaten fat. Let's go, Yuan said to them. The blood-eating demonic insects stopped circling around her and flew forward. Yuan looked at the moving red clouds, which were very conspicuous in this sleepy swamp. Master, I've been walking for so long and I haven't seen a single puppet, the little snake said doubtfully as it turned its triangular eyes and looked around. You're not leaving the swamp, are you? After all, the swamp can be entered and exited from all directions. The little snake shook his head. No, the aura is still there, but it's not fixed. It seems to be in the entire swamp. Since there is, we will always encounter it. Master, let's go to the big lake ahead. Look, Yuan pointed at the blood-devouring demonic insects and said, it turned out that they had already flown towards the lake. This kind of lake is often inhabited by large monsters such as monster crocodiles and pythons. Blood-eating monsters like these fleshy monsters the most. By the time Yuan arrived at the lake, it turned out that the blood-eating demonic insect was already devouring a demonic crocodile. At this time, the monsters in the lake felt the danger, and they got up and ran away. Yuan must have flashed into space at this moment. With so many monsters, she asked Liang Bao to throw out their blood-eating monsters. After a while, the screams of monster beasts were heard outside. After the outside calmed down, the mother and son all came out of the room. Yuan simply let Liang Bao's blood-eating monster insects come out to look for food, so that they would grow faster. There is no danger if Liang Bao lets the little snake hump outside. The mother and son wandered around in the swamp for a whole month, and they did not encounter Mujukan or Yu Heiran during this month. Yuan couldn't help but feel worried and acted faster. Hope to find them as soon as possible. On this day, the mother and son came to a group of mountains. At the foot of the mountains was a swamp, which meant that the mountains were in a swamp. There are still no shrubs on the mountain, it is bare, but it is full of strong poisonous gas and miasma. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 413. Chapter 413 Destruction of the Puppet. The mother and son watched for a long time but couldn't figure out the reason. The little snake said, Master, the smell of the puppet in the mountain is very strong. The puppet must be in the mountain. Do we want to go and explore? Mother, we are going. Bao's eyes were bright and he tugged on Yuan's sleeves. Yuan gave him a soft shudder on the head and asked warmly, aren't you going to find Dad and Uncle? As soon as the little guy heard that Fan was troubled, he scratched his little head, pouted his mouth, glanced at Yuan, then at the impatient blood-eating demon insect, and sighed, then let's go find Dad and Uncle. Ha ha. Yuan was amused by his appearance. Unlike Dabao, Bao had a very active personality and had colorful expressions on his face. Everything was reflected in one face. Dabao is just like Mujukan when he was a child, with a cold face. The bigger he gets, the colder he gets. Obviously he has fire and wood spiritual roots, but he has a cold temperament. Yuan rubbed Urbao's soft hair. Let's go in and take a look first. If your father and uncle come, they will definitely know where we are. Mom, let me make some marks here, Dabeo said suddenly. As he spoke, he immediately jumped off the snake's back and drew a symbol on the ground. Yuan glanced at it. It was estimated that only the father and son could understand it. Dabeo made a mark and jumped on the back of the little snake, sitting down obediently. Yuan moved his head again and said to the little snake, let's go in. The little snake nodded and flew to the mountain with a few whistling sounds. Mujukan and Yuhairan also separated unknowingly. Fortunately, they had blood-eating monsters and were strong enough to avoid danger. On this day, the two of them unknowingly came to the place where Dabeo made the mark. Mujukan bent down and looked at the mark, then looked at the barren mountain opposite, knowing that Yuan and her son had entered the mountain in the swamp. Jukan, are you here too? Yuhairan saw him from afar and flew over immediately. Well, we just arrived. Let's go up. Waner and her son entered the mountain, Mujukan said, pointing to the mountain in the swamp. Okay, let's go quickly. Yuhairan heard that Liangbao also came out and entered the mountain. Even though Xiao Sier had space, a small snake, and a blood-eating demonic insect in his body, he was still worried. Mujukan nodded, and the two of them flew into the mountain. In the mountains, the little snake flew to a big mountain and said, Master, the puppet must be in this mountain. Yuan looked at the mountain, and scanned it again with her consciousness. Sure enough, there were several large caves at the foot of the mountain, and there were vague noises inside. She said to the two treasures, let's not go in first. Let's release your blood-eating monsters and let them go into the cave. Liangbao nodded after hearing this. They both had good sense, and they naturally saw those caves. Then with a wave of his little hand, two red clouds flew to the foot of the mountain. Yuan also quickly released her blood-eating demonic insects to follow. Sure enough, not long after, a man in a cloak flew out, followed by countless puppets. Little snake, protect the big treasure and the second treasure. Upon seeing this, Yuan immediately flew up and flew to the ground without saying a word. The little snake understood. It built a barrier on its body to protect the two treasures, then flew into the air and stared at the ground. After Yuan flew to the ground, her consciousness moved. 18 people came out around her, one of whom was Xiao Qing. More than a dozen people saw the cloaks and puppets flying out from the bottom of the mountain. Without saying a word, they summoned the blood-eating demonic insects, sacrificed their magic weapons and flew towards the group of puppets. For a time, gunpowder smoke billowed out in front of the mountain, and the sound of fighting resounded through the bottom of the mountain. In the distance, Mujukan and Yuhairan heard what was going on. He sped up and rushed over to join the battle. At this time, deep in the cave, Xiao Zi opened his eyes, his consciousness was released, and when he saw the scene outside the cave, he immediately flew out of the cave. At first glance, it turned out to be the 20 insect-controlling monks. Just as he was about to take action, a figure flew down from the sky and stopped him. Xiu'er, why is it you? Xiao Zi was surprised and happy. Rong Xiu just looked at him coldly, neither speaking nor moving. Xiao Zi's face darkened. Xiu'er, are you asking them to destroy Dad's puppet? Rong Xiu nodded towards him. These days, in fact, Rong Xiu has not left at all. He followed Xiao Zi here quietly and has been hiding here. He knows Chaoyang City and Chaoyang Mountain very well. If the puppets are not eliminated, the monks recruited from various cities in Chaoyang City will not let them go. Of course, the vast majority of people will obey the arrangements and stay in Chaoyang City, but there are always some people who won't wait obediently. For example, Yuan doesn't get along with her very much, but he knows her very well. She will definitely take the initiative to enter the swamp to find the puppet. No, This is coming. Of course, he witnessed with his own eyes this time Yuan moved those people out with a wave of his hand. He was sure that Yuan had the legendary life space. Although the life space was very tempting, he had no intention of snatching it away. If it were anyone else, he might have grabbed it, but Yuan would not. If he had it, he would still give it to her. From the bottom of his heart, he hoped that she would be safe throughout her life. If he doesn't get it, he is content to watch her take care of herself. Xiao Zi's eyes flashed with sadness that others could not see. He could only watch the puppets disappear from his eyes. I don't want you to be the one who harms others. It's too late to stop now. Rongxiu seemed to see the forbearance in Xiao Zi's heart, and he said calmly. From the bottom of his heart, he didn't want Xiao Zi to become the target of public criticism. Although he had become the target of public criticism, no one knew it was him, right? Xiao Zi looked directly at his son and was speechless for a long time. Is his son worried about him? His consciousness swept towards the cloaked man fighting with the puppet and the monk in front of the mountain. He looked up to the sky and sighed, come on, this is what his son wants to see, and he will fulfill his son's wish. If he firmly confronts his son today, he will definitely lose his son. Compared to a puppet, and compared to the shady Tianyan sect leader, a son is more important. Xiao Zi nodded toward Rongxiu, okay, as long as Xiu doesn't like it, Dad won't do it. He waved his hand, and the cloaked man who was still fighting with Yuan suddenly fell to the ground. Muse and Yu's people stopped and quickly backed away, looking at the two people in front of the cave. Rongxiu, then let's go. Xiao Zi felt happy and nodded repeatedly, okay, okay, Daddy and Xiu will go. After speaking, he stretched out his hand, like a younger brother reaching out for someone to take. Rongxiu hesitated for a moment, raised his hand and took the hand hidden in the cloak. He looked back at Yuan and Mujukan, nodded to them, and then flew away with Xiao Zi. What does this mean? Yu Haoshan asked. Mujukan understood the look in Rongxiu's eyes. It was a farewell to them. Although he didn't know what the relationship was between him and the cloaked man, he knew that the crisis that the puppet had brought to the world of immortality had been lifted, and there would be no more puppets in the future. Come out and act like a monster. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 414. Chapter 414 Return to Juyo City. Mujukan looked at Yuan, who nodded towards him. Mujukan said to the monks, no matter what it means, we can go back after all the puppets are destroyed. Everyone understood that the puppet leaders were gone and the battle was over. They simply waited for the blood-eating demonic insects to devour the puppet. The puppet had no one to direct it and could only stand there and wait to be swallowed. One day later, all the puppets were devoured, and not even one was left in the cave. Mujukan, you send a message back to the monks in Juyo City. We will fly from here to another city and take the teleportation array back, Yuan said to Mujukan. Yesterday, Rongxiu gave her a message, telling them not to return to Chaoyang City, because the blood-eating demonic insect has been missed. Mujukan's handsome eyebrows raised, is it because of the blood-eating demonic insects? Yuan nodded. Okay, Mujukan said, taking out the transmission talisman and passing the news to the monks in Juyo City. Chenur, let's go quickly. Mr. Mu saw the trick, and he also urged Mujukan. Grandpa, brother, you'd better go back, it's more convenient for Mujukan and I to walk outside, Yuan said immediately. Everyone nodded. They were all smart people and didn't ask anything. So Yuan quickly collected the people, called the little snake down, and took the two treasures into the space. The two of them sat on the little snake's back and flew out of the swamp. Outside the swamp, Rong Nan's Hung, the third elder of the Rong tribe, dressed in black, was wandering on the edge of the swamp. One day ago, they received a message from Rongxiu saying that all the puppets had been destroyed, and he asked them to send back the monks from each city. After he received it, it was already the next day after he arranged things. He couldn't wait to run to the swamp. Except for the 20 monks who controlled the blood-devouring monster insects, he could not think of anyone who could kill hundreds of thousands of puppets in such a short period of time. But Rong Xiu sent a message to him, overtly and covertly warning him not to have any evil intentions. Rong Nanshen's eyes flashed back to Chaoyang Mountain. If he doesn't move now, he won't move. After a while, the storm will pass, and a lot of those monks will die, so no one will notice. Yuan and the two quickly flew to a city and rushed to Juyo City. They stopped at a city called Wanhe City. They were waiting for the monks from Juyo City to return from Chaoyang City. Yuan took the opportunity to move the Mu family and Yu family people out. 3 days later, 70 monks from Juyo City came to Wanhe City to join Yuan and the others, and then the 90 people returned to Juyo City together. The Lord of Juyo City has been waiting for several days, and he finally waited for them today. Knowing that 10 people had been lost among the 100 people, the city lord made some compensation to the families of the 10 people who died, and asked everyone to go back. He would not tell anything until later. After Yuan and the others came back, they rested for a few days before everyone got back on track. In the space, Mu Jukan held Yuan's hand for a walk. "Wan I'm going into seclusion in a few days," Mu Jukan said. In this battle in Chaoyang City, his strength was still far behind others. Without the blood-eating demonic insects, he might not have been able to fight against the monks of the same level. "Gotta win." Yuan nodded, "Okay, you can just retreat in peace." She does not go into seclusion. She has to take care of her sons for several years. At least she will go into seclusion after they have established the foundation. She has just given birth to a baby, and it is not appropriate to improve her cultivation level. Taking advantage of this time, she decided to take her sons out for a walk and lure away those who were interested in the blood demon worm. It also allowed my sons to see more of the dangers of the human heart and the cruelty of the world of immortality. Mu Jukan took Yuan back to the wooden house, and it took a few days for the two of them to come out. After coming out, Mu Jukan went to retreat. Yuan called Liang Bao over. "Mother, why did you ask us to come back?" Bao asked as soon as he entered the door. "Yes, we are going to go out for training tomorrow and pack our things." Experience. Grandpa Zhang said that in 3 days, a secret realm will be opened, suitable for those of us in the Qi training period to go in and experience. "Mother, don't you know?" Bao asked. Yuan blushed. As soon as she came back, she and Mu Jukan lived in the space for 2 people. "You want to go?" "Well, Grandpa asked us to lead the team, and each family can have 20 people," Bao said, climbed on Yuan, sat on her lap, hugged her neck and chewed a few times, with a pair of shiny looking at her with gleaming eyes. Dabao also came over, as if he was afraid that she would not agree. Yuan rubbed the 2 treasures' heads, kissed each of them and said, "Okay, let me wait until you leave the secret realm. You also go and prepare, and I will refine some elixirs for you." "Okay," Liang Bao got the permission and went out happily. As soon as the 2 treasures left, Yuan came to Mr. Mu's study. "Knock knock knock," Yuan knocked on the door. "Come in," Mr. Mu's voice sounded. Yuan pushed the door open and walked in. "Grandfather." "It's girl Wan. Is it about the Dabao and the second treasure entering the secret realm?" "Sit down," Mr. Mu said, pointing to the stool. Yuan nodded and sat down. "Grandpa, where is the secret place?" "It's a secret realm outside Wanhe City. It opens once every 100 years. It has many opportunities and is suitable for Qi training disciples in the clan." Grandpa asked Dabao Bao to lead the team. "Is there nothing wrong with Wan Yat?" Mr. Mu said with a smile. Yuan shook her head, "I don't have any problem." Dabeo and Urbeo just told me that they should come over and ask, let them go and practice. Grandpa, when are you leaving? Mr. Mew said, let's leave tomorrow. Grandpa will send it there personally. Well, I'll go back and prepare something for them. Mr. Mew knew what she needed to prepare, so he didn't leave her alone. Yuan returned to their yard and immediately entered the space to refine the elixir. Not only did the two treasures need it, but the young disciples in the clan also needed it. Those young disciples were all recruited from Juyo City. Some were casual cultivators, some were children of families in the city, and some were street children and orphans. After recruiting them, you have to treat them well. Yuan prepared the elixirs and some magical instruments in storage bags for Bao to send to Mr. Mew. She gave the two treasures separately. She also gave Xiaoqing and Xiaoshe two Dabeo treasures respectively, plus their blood-eating monster insects to keep them safe. In the evening, Yuan personally taught the two treasures something. She stroked the heads of her two sons and said, when you enter the secret realm, remember not to fight with others, and avoid the crowds as much as possible. Try to protect the disciples in the clan. As long as your lives are safe, I hope you all can come back safe and sound. Liangbao nodded sensibly. On the second day, Yuan personally sent them out of the clan. They had been in the secret realm for 3 months this time. She originally wanted to follow them, but seeing that Mr. Mew wanted them to be independent on their own. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 415. Chapter 415. Two treasures come out of the secret realm. There was no other way, she could only stay at home and wait. 3 months is just a matter of seclusion for the monks. But the past 3 months had been extremely long for Yuan. 2 days before the secret realm was closed, she was really restless. She couldn't help but get on the teleportation array and come to Wanhe City to meet the monks who went to pick up her disciples. Fly away from the secret realm. As soon as he arrived, he saw Mr. Mew sitting on the flying boat. Grandfather. Mr. Mew opened his eyes and saw that it was her. He patted his side and said, here he is, just sit down and wait. He will be out in a day or so. In the secret realm, I don't know that it has become a purgatory on Earth. High-level monsters that come from nowhere, bite or swallow the monks when they see them. Extremely cruel. At this time, Xiaoxi and Xiaoqing were protecting about 100 disciples in the Qi training stage and running towards the entrance of the secret realm. Sir, where did so many high-level monsters come from? The little snake regained its original form and swept away a row of monsters with a flick of its tail. It howled angrily. So many monsters can't defeat it, but it is tired. Dabeo and Urbeo also swung their swords to slash at the attacking monsters, and the 200,000 blood-eating monsters followed closely in front of them, preventing the monsters from getting close. Bao, quickly give the talisman given by Mother to the other disciples. Dabeo took the time to tell Bao. After hearing this, Urbeo held a sword flower in his small hand, threw out a few more talismans, quickly retreated to the crowd behind him, took out a lot of talismans, grabbed a Qi refining disciple, pointed at the talismans on the ground and said, quickly ask other disciples to get the talismans and throw them away. Just hold on until the secret realm is closed. The Qi training disciple was stunned. Hurry up, Urbeo urged and joined the battle again. That's right, this secret realm can't attract lightning disaster. Can my spiritual pet Xiaoyan be summoned? When Urbeo went back and saw Wu Yanjiang's group of monster beasts, he thought that there was a contract in the spirit beast bag. My spiritual pet. He and Dabeo contracted a 5th level silver moon wolf alone, but they never released it and forgot about it. Urbeo quickly patted the spirit beast bag, and a majestic silver 5th level demon wolf came out. Xiaoyan, hurry up, bite them to death, Urbeo shouted. Little Yin hasn't eaten meat for a long time, so he needs to eat a full meal with so much meat. Dabao saw Xiaoyan coming out, and his Xiaoyu was also there. He also patted the spirit beast bag, and a silver moon wolf with the same fur as Xiaoyan came out and rushed into the group of monster beasts with howling. With two 5th level monsters coming out to help and a large number of talismans, the group of monsters was finally repulsed. At this time, there were still 3 hours before the secret realm was closed, and a group of small chi practitioners collapsed on the ground from exhaustion. Those who were injured sat on the ground to heal themselves, while those who were not injured were paralyzed from exhaustion. Senior brother, is this your spiritual beast? A beautiful young female cultivator of 12 or 13 years old ran to Urbeo and sat down next to him and asked him. Urbeo nodded towards her and leaned closer to Dabao. Mother said, "Don't strike up a conversation with strangers casually. The person who came to strike up a conversation is a beautiful nun, so she must have bad intentions." Dabao turned his head and glanced at the little female cultivator coldly, then took Urbeo and sat down next to Xiaoyu. The little female cultivator's eyes flashed. She did have evil intentions. She was the concubine of the Lord of Wanhe City. Although she is a concubine, she has more knowledge than ordinary people. As for the large number of talismans that Urbeo took out, and the spiritual pet, although she cannot tell the strength, but the spiritual pet can drive away so many monsters, then it must not be a low-level spiritual pet. Also, these two boys are obviously only 8 or 9 years old, their strength is already at the 12th level of chi training, and they are still wearing high-level robes. Extraordinary. What surprised her even more was that her cultivation during the chi training period allowed her to contract a high-level spiritual pet, which other monks could not do. Once you contract a high-level spiritual pet with a low-price repair, you will immediately be eaten by the monster and die, but these two boys are still alive. There must be some secret between these two people. If you can get to know them, it would be great to be a Taoist companion with one of them when you grow up. When the little nun saw that the two boys were ignoring her and still sitting next to the monster, she didn't have the guts to get close to them, so she had to retreat bitterly. Many monks in the crowd saw that they were not just kids in their teens. Some of them were in their 20s. If they didn't understand something, they all showed shameless looks. Those two boys looked like they were not ordinary children. They dared to take advantage of other people's ideas. "Little master, let's go." The little snake checked that the group of monsters and beasts were far away, and flew back to urge the two treasures. There is still an hour away from the teleportation exit. It is better to arrive earlier than later. Liang Bao stood up, called the 18 disciples of the Mu family and the 10 disciples of the Yu family and ran towards the teleportation array. The other monks naturally followed. A group of people rushed to the entrance of the teleportation array, panting, and sat down to wait. Looking at the few other sparse people on the ground, the 100 or so of them sighed that they were lucky enough to meet those two boys. Liang Bao also collected all his spiritual pets at this time, waiting for the secret realm to close. Outside the secret realm, Yuan sat or stood uneasily, feeling as anxious as a cat scratching her head. The heart keeps beating. Suddenly, people dropped from the air like dumplings. Many people died inside, so many monsters and monsters. The one crying was a female nun aged 14 or 15. Howling. Monster. Everyone immediately became excited and looked for their disciples everywhere. Yuan stared at the person who fell out with her consciousness. Finally, two small light blue figures appeared in her consciousness. Yuan felt relieved and quickly flew over and hugged the two treasures with one arm. The two great treasures. Mother, the two babies also hugged her tightly. Girl Wan, let's go. Mr. Mu led the 18 children over with a smile. Hey, okay, let's go. Yuan picked up the two treasures and flew to the flying boat. At this time, a gaze followed Yuan. When the gaze saw her face clearly, he quietly retracted it. The little female cultivator, Lin Xiang'er, the concubine of the city lord of Wanhee City, took a breath when she saw that alluring face. This girl is so beautiful. Thinking of her lecherous father, Lin Xiang'er's eyes burned even more. Yuan could not care about the families who had lost their disciples. After Yu Heiran picked up the disciples, she personally flew to Juyo City in a flying boat. Brother, how many people from your clan have died? Yu Heiran, all 10 people have returned. They said that thanks to Dabao and Erbao, they protected the disciples of the 2 clans throughout the whole process. Well, Liang Bao did a good job this time and performed very well. Yuan was not stingy about expressing her gratitude to Yang Liang Bao. Appropriate praising Yang would motivate them even more. Mother, it's all the little snake's contribution. Mother, remember to reward them when you go back. Erbao threw himself into Yuan's arms. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 416. Chapter 416. Lin Yi, the Lord of Wanhee City. Well, my son is good and he knows how to be humble. Okay, mother, please remember it and go to your uncle's place. Mother is driving the flying boat. Yuan rubbed Erbao's head. Seeing how sensible her son was, her heart was so tender. At the main palace of Wanhee City, after Lin Xiang'er handed over all the things he got in the secret realm, he did not retreat in a hurry and stood aside. After the disciples had finished leaving, Lin Yishan, the lord of Wanhee City, looked at Lin Xiang'er who had not left yet. He asked impatiently, Xiang'er hasn't left yet. Is there anything wrong? 50 people went out and 12 came back. He felt very unhappy when he brought back such a small amount of things. This annoying dead girl couldn't get out. Lin Xiang'er generously walked up to Lin Yishan and saluted, Father, we are able to come back with so many people this time only because of the help of our 2 junior brothers. Lin Yishan is such a smart person. The appearance of a large number of monsters in the secret realm has spread throughout the world of immortality. These dead girls are said to be 2 junior brothers. Could it be that they have some magic weapon that can cause harm? He immediately put on a fatherly look and said, Xiang'er will tell my father about the things in the secret realm in detail. My father will come to visit me one day to express my thanks. Lin Xiang'er nodded obediently and added some embarrassment, deliberately emphasizing how beautiful the 2 treasures looked. A very beautiful woman picked them up after they came out of the secret realm. Lin Yishan narrowed his eyes, waved Lin Xiang'er to retreat, and rewarded her with something. Here comes someone, Lin Yishan shouted. What are the orders from the city lord? Immediately a golden elixir monk flashed in. Go and find out who this is, Lin Yishan told the story of Yuan's family. Yes, the golden elixir monk dodged and retreated. Lin Yishan's eyes changed again and again, and he turned around and entered the secret room to get some things. Yuan landed the flying boat outside Juyo City. After Mr. Mu collected the flying boat, the group entered Juyo City and returned to their clans. Mr. Mu is in charge of the family. She will go back to the yard and wait for the 2 treasures to come back. An hour later, the 2 babies came back happily. Mom, this is for you. Grandpa Zeng asked you to plant it. Erbao gave her a storage bag as soon as she came in. Yuan picked up the 2 treasures and said, you can plant them, especially Dabao. If you want to be an alchemist, you must know this kind of elixir. Dabao nodded and took the storage bag from Erbao. Can you tell me what happened in the secret realm? Both treasures nodded, so the first treasure told the story and the second treasure added. Yuan understood what happened in the secret realm. Fortunately, she gave the little snake Xiaoqing to Liang Bao. What's even better is that she let Liang Bao contract 2 5th-level spiritual pets. Although they cannot be used normally, they are still useful at critical moments. As for the respective opportunities of the 2 treasures, Yuan did not ask them in detail. She told them not to elaborate. Even if it is her son, the opportunity for her son belongs to her son. She wants her sons to understand that even in front of their closest parents, some things can be said and some things can be left unsaid. Liang Bao understood, and after finishing speaking, they went into the space to plant the elixirs they had dug in the secret realm. She returned to space to refine a batch of foundation building pills, metal formation pills, and infant formation pills. If she wanted the horses to run, she had to give them grass. If she wanted her disciple Jin Xingxin to be loyal to the family, some benefits were necessary. Yuan sent it directly to Mr. Mu after refining it. Mr. Mu held the elixir in his hand, his face turning into a chrysanthemum. Girl Wan, do you think we can open a business and auction things from time to time to earn some spiritual stones? Yuan thought for a while and said, Grandpa, you can have this. It's best to partner with my eldest brother and the others. My third brother is a good hand in business. Okay, I'll ask your father to talk to your elder brother tomorrow. If it works out, let's get started as soon as possible. Mr. Mu smiled and narrowed his eyes. He couldn't be more pleased to be able to partner with the Yu family. In so many years, the two families have never blushed or said an unpleasant word because of matters of interest. A business firm opened by one family is still lacking in terms of strength and manpower. It is very good for two families to form a partnership. Chief, there is someone coming to visit outside the mountain gate at this time, a disciple reported outside the gate. Grandpa, you have guests, so I'll go back first. Yuan stood up quickly after hearing the disciple's report. Okay, then you can go back. Mr. Mu nodded and responded. Yuan bowed and returned to the courtyard. It has been a few days since Liang Bao came out of the secret realm, and the previous experience plan is almost on the agenda. Mujukan will be in seclusion for at least a few years this time. When the mother and son come back after a few years of experience, the two treasures can also build a foundation. Second, Madam, the patriarch invites you to the living room at this time. The previous disciple came to report again. Oh? Invite me? You go back first, I will be there soon, Yuan said. The disciple received the reply and returned to his post. Yuan performed several cleaning techniques on her body and came to the living room. There were only two people in the living room, one was Mr. Mu who was sitting in the main seat, and the other was a monk in the early stage of nascent soul. Seeing Yuan come in, Lin Yishan was stunned. Beautiful. It's so beautiful. The skin was like snow, the eyebrows, the nose, the lips were all exquisite. He had never seen such stunning beauty in his life. His eyes were firmly glued to Yuan. Yuan was not happy at all. How could this man be so uneducated and stare at a woman without even looking where he was? Mr. Mu's face darkened. What the is this? It's for his grandson-in-law. Ahem, cough, City Lord Lin, Mr. Mu shouted loudly. Ah! I'm sorry, I suddenly saw such a beautiful woman, I'm sorry. Lin Yishan quickly bowed to apologize, but his disgusting eyes still didn't move away. Mr. Mu really wanted to slap the boards of his shoes a few times. Is this City Lord Lin? Yuan asked impatiently. Ah, yes, I came here today to thank Daiyu's son for saving my little girl's life. He took out a storage ring and put it on the table. Yuan frowned and said calmly, City Lord Lin, please take it back. My son said that so many people fought against the monster that day, but my son didn't save anyone. She saluted Mr. Mu and said, Grandpa, my granddaughter-in-law is leaving. After saying that, he quickly walked out of the living room without even looking at Lin Tiantian. Yu Daiyu doesn't understand any rules at all. He knows that she has a husband and a son, but he doesn't even call her ma'am. This is an obvious way to discord her. Mr. Mu was so angry that his beard was trembling. This son of a dared to miss his grandson-in-law. Did he want to taste his meat with a big knife? He said in a deep voice, City Lord Lin, please come back. I have something to do. Lin Yishan's face fell. He glanced at Mr. Mew, snorted, flicked his sleeves and left. Bah, I'm going to get you one day. What the is a small family. Lin Yishan walked out of the mountain gate and spat towards the Mew family's gate, angrily. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 417. Chapter 417. Lin Yishan died. Yuan went back to tidy up, and then went to say hello to Mr. Mew. Mr. Mew was about to speak but stopped. Yuan smiled slyly at him and said, "Grandpa, don't worry. Some people have a long life, and we have to help him. A Yuanying in the early stage dares to take advantage of her, she really doesn't know whether to live or die." Mr. Mew said in a deep voice, "Be clean. If someone is old, it means he has no temper. If he has that kind of strength, why can't Lin Yishan stay here forever?" Yuan nodded, went back and took her son down the mountain. She left Xiaoqing in the clan, so if something happened, Xiaoqing could still calm the situation. After all, she is at level 5. Although she is naive and not good at fighting, she can still beat people up. Not to mention the 5th level realm, the momentum is still enough. The mother and son took the teleportation array straight to Wanhe City, and then found an inn to stay in Wanhe City. As soon as mother and son entered Wanhe City, Lin Yishan knew about it. After all, the teleportation array is in the city lord's mansion. Lin Yishan touched his smooth chin and stood in the study room, his mind filled with Yuan's peerless appearance. He is not a fool, but is very smart. Otherwise, he has played with so many women over the years and nothing has happened, and his head is not in vain. At that time, he was in the Mew tribe, and when he saw Yuan's face, he lost his composure. Calm down now, people are in his territory, how can he let her escape? After Yuan, mother, and son visited Wanhe City for an afternoon, they returned to the inn to practice some exercises. After activating the formation, mother and son returned to space. Rong Xiu kidnapped her in the inn. This was Lin Yishan's territory, and she would not make the same problem again. "Mom, where are we going?" Erbeo asked. "Do you have a place you want to go?" Erbeo shook his head. "I haven't thought about it well, I want to go anywhere." "Then let's walk as we please, wherever we go is fine." "Good. Then go to sleep quickly, we will leave tomorrow." The two babies got into the quilt obediently, closed their eyes, and fell asleep soon. Yuan kissed each of them on the face before returning to the wooden house to meditate. It was quiet at night, nothing happened. The next day, Yuan got up, took the two treasures to the teleportation array, and then got on the teleportation array to the next city. Sure enough, just after their mother and son left, a man silently sat on the same teleportation array. The city Yuan chose was a smaller city. As soon as they came out of the teleportation array, the mother and son walked out of the city. Then get on the flying boat and fly to a place with a forest. Everyone who saw it thought it was the elders of some family who brought the younger ones out to practice. No one knew that Yuan was going to commit murder. Liangbao didn't know any better and thought they were coming into the mountains to hunt monsters, so they were very excited. At the top of a big mountain, Yuan looked at this place, which was suitable for Lin Yishan to disappear and for practicing the two treasures. She lowered the flying boat, collected the flying boat, and waited quietly while holding the two treasures. Sure enough, a figure flew over and landed 5 feet away from the mother and son. "Haha, are you waiting for me, fellow deist you?" Lin Tianatian's eyes were half squinted, and he looked intently at that world-famous face. Yuan nodded. "Waiting for you to come and die." Liangbao came back to his senses and stared at Lin Yishan. This man had evil intentions. No wonder my mother's feet keep coming here. He, wait until the blood-devouring demonic insects have meat to eat. Ha ha ha, fellow deist, you is really a sensible beauty, and I like it. As he spoke, he raised his hand, and a fifth-level trapping formation was activated. Buzz, the formation trapped Yuan, her son, and Na Lin in the formation for a whole day. Are you afraid of the great treasure and the second treasure? Liang Bao shook his head. How could he be afraid? It was too late for them to like him. Lin Yishan walked slowly and stopped in front of the mother and son, who were 3.5 feet away. As long as the beauty follows my city lord, I will not harm these two brats, Lin Yishan said boldly. Yuan, mother and son, did not change their expressions at all. She sneered, you are really crazy. Are you sure you can let me go with you? While speaking, Yuan and her son had already released the blood-eating demonic insects. His trapped formation is simply a divine assist. A few red clouds surrounded Lin Yi. Attack, mother and son shouted at the same time. Blood-devouring demonic insect, Lin Tianatian's face changed when he saw those red clouds. He dodged the attack of the blood-devouring demonic insect. With a wave of his backhand, a ball of flame shot out from his palm and attacked the blood-devouring demonic insect. Blood demon insect. Just when the flames were about to attack the blood-devouring demonic insect, a large water ball fell from above, splashing on the flames like heavy rain. The flames popped and went out. Yuan watched calmly as the blood-eating demonic insects surrounded Lin Yishan again. As long as Lin Yishan casts a fire spell, Yuan will definitely give him a bucket of cold water. Even Liang Bao frequently uses water spells. Although it is of no use to Lin Tiantian, it can make them proficient in spells. You bitch, Lin Yishan lost his temper and cursed loudly. He waved his hand and tried to escape after withdrawing from the trapped formation. Want to escape? 20 soul thorns suddenly shot through the air and pierced into Lin Yishan's sea of consciousness like sharp arrows. With Yuan's explosion, Lin Yishan's head was blown to pieces. The blood-eating demonic insects swarmed up and devoured Lin Yishan completely in a few breaths, leaving only 2 storage rings on the ground. Yuan took the ring in her hand with the magic of controlling objects, and after a few cleaning operations, she threw it into the space and looked at it again. Clean the battlefield. Liang Bao nodded. After a few spells, there were no traces left. This is what Professor Yuan taught. As long as you kill someone, you must erase the traces of the scene and leave no clues. Yuan checked again to make sure there were no traces left, then she broke through the trap and flew to the other side to hunt the monster with the 2 treasures. Liang Bao was fighting with the monster, while Yuan was watching from the side. This kind of fighting can make Liang Bao more proficient in fighting skills and the use of spells. What they lack now is fighting experience. The 2 treasures use flying swords, magic weapons, and like Mujukan, they both love using swords. Yuan even specially found 2 swordsmanship books for them. Dabao's 13 shadow swords has a total of 13 swords. The main focus is on speed. After practicing to a great level, the swords are so fast that only a few shadows can be seen. The second treasure is 9 styles of thunder. This sword technique is so powerful that it can sweep thousands of armies with one sword. Of course you can still kill mortals. It would be awesome if you could kill thousands of monks. Now you can still kill a handful of monks. Yuan watched the 2 treasures using their swords to make clouds and flowing water flow. Every time the sword was struck, the monster would be hit. The swordsmanship he used at such a young age is indeed very good with such power, and Liang Bao does have great potential as a swordsman. The more Yuan looked at the 2 treasures, the more she felt that her son had suffered a lot and was handsome, and she felt an unspeakable pride in her heart. Unconsciously, Yuan's face curled up with a smile. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 418. Chapter 418 Yuan teaches his son. The mother and son stayed in the forest for a few days and returned to Sunshine City. In the market, The two treasures sold all the elixirs collected from the monsters they had killed in the past few days. He, mother, we have earned spiritual stones. Urbeo held the small storage bag containing the spiritual stones, smiling happily and arching his eyebrows. This is the first pot of gold in their lives, which is quite a lot. Each of them has 1,000 pieces, which is a good income in a small chi training. Yuan rubbed the little buns of her two sons and said, "This means that you have grown up and can be independent. But if you have spiritual stones, you can't spend them randomly. The spiritual stones must be spent in useful places." Mother, we remember. Be good. Yuan walked out of Fangshi holding one by one hand, walked to the teleportation array, and got on the teleportation array to another city. As usual, the mother and son stayed at an inn and then went shopping. "This is what I saw first," a little girl's voice sounded. It was not loud, but soft and sweet. Liang Bao was attracted. The mother and son stepped forward. In front of a stall, two girls were in a stalemate holding a dagger. The soft and waxy girl in blue ordinary clothes pouted, her delicate face was blushing, and she glared at the girl opposite. The girl opposite is about 10 years old. She is wearing a pink robe and an exquisite double bun. Her pretty face is full of arrogance, and she is looking down at the girl opposite. Behind her stood a 14-year-old female nun, watching the scene indifferently. "Let go," the girl in pink yelled. The girl in green clothes stubbornly stared back at the girl in pink clothes and refused to let go. "Hey, stall owner, tell me, who do you want to sell to?" someone couldn't help but say. Those who were watching the excitement all looked at the stall owner. The stall owner was a male cultivator in his 20s. His mouth moved a few times but he still didn't say anything. Whoever runs a stall in the market doesn't know that this girl in pink is the apple of the city lord's eye and they can't afford to offend her. The girl in green was indeed the first to take a fancy to this dagger. She was about to pay for the dagger when the little witch hit it. "This dagger is just an ordinary magic weapon dagger. It has no use except that it looks good." "Pa," just when everyone was waiting for the stall owner to speak, the girl in pink raised her hand and slapped the girl in green on the face. Suddenly, there was a red slap mark on the girl in green. Not long after, the girl in Xingyi's face became red and swollen. But the girl in green clothes still grabbed the dagger and wouldn't let go. "Well, it's really ruthless, can't see, a big girl is so domineering," someone scolded. Liang Bao looked up at Yuan, with sympathy in his eyes. Yuan shook her head towards Liang Bao. The girl in pink acted arrogantly and domineeringly. The female nun behind her was obviously traveling with her. The two of them were dressed in extraordinary ways, and the stall owner didn't dare to tell. This girl must be someone that no one in the city could afford to offend. Looking at their behavior, things like this have happened many times before. Just look at things like this, and let Liang Bao see that this world of immortality is a world where strength is respected. There is no reason to explain. At this time, the female cultivator behind the girl in pink glared at the people who were talking. She took out 100 spiritual stones and threw them on the stall owner's stall. She grabbed the dagger and led the girl in pink into the crowd. "Disappear." The stall owner shook his head and accepted the spirit stone. Other spectators dispersed. There were only 3 people, Yuan, mother and son, and the girl in green who was standing in front of the stall. "Mother," Urbeo shouted softly. Yuan knelt down, looked at Urbeo and pinched his little face. What do Urbeo want to do? She could clearly see the reluctance and stubbornness in the eyes of the girl in Xingyi. Such a character may not be able to accept help from others, and the person who helps may not be well liked. Yuan took another look at the girl in Xingyi who was still standing there. Her fists were clenched tightly. Yuan withdrew her gaze and nodded towards Urbeo, letting him hit the wall. Good intentions in this world are not rewarded. As expected, Urbeo walked towards the little girl in blue, handed his own dagger to her, and whispered, "Little sister, don't be sad, I'll give it to you. The little girl's eyes were red. She glanced hard at Bao and raised her hand to knock the dagger out of Bao's hand. I want you to pretend to be kind. After saying this, he didn't even glance at the dagger and the second treasure on the ground, and disappeared into the crowd. Only the stall owner could see the incident here clearly. He shook his head and said nothing. Only Bao picked up the dagger aggrievedly and returned to Yuan with his head lowered. Without saying a word, Yuan took the two treasures back to the inn. In the room, Yuan held Bao in her arms and sat on the stool with distress. She sat on the stool opposite Bao. She picked up Bao's little face, pinched it, and whispered softly, Bao, it's a good thing that you want to help others. It shows that our Bao is a kind child, but in the world of immortality, kindness depends on others. Today, the little girl in green knew that she was no match for the girl in pink, but she still stubbornly refused to let go. There was stubbornness, discomfort, and hatred in her eyes. Such people are very paranoid and can easily get into trouble with others over trivial matters. Big loss. This is a world where strength is respected. There is no law and no reason. The fist is the last word. We must be a kind-hearted and powerful person. Bao gradually raised his head and listened to her attentively, finally breaking into a smile. Yuan hugged Dabao and Dabao tightly. This trip of experience was very necessary. She was glad that she allowed them to see human nature in a down-to-earth way before they experienced and grew up alone. I believe that the two treasures will grow a lot when they go back this time. She felt relieved to wait for them to practice alone after they established the foundation. Bao's temperament means that he should be allowed to see more and experience more, so that he will suffer less in the future. The loss is small, but I am afraid that he will show his good intentions and attract people with evil intentions, and lose his life as a result. Dabao has a calm temperament and will not be disturbed by other irrelevant things or people. But Yuan still taught him carefully. No matter how calm he was still a child. After that, the mother and son wandered around the city and the mountains and forests as usual. Bao gradually changed. When killing monsters, his sword moves became much sharper. Although his temper was as gentle as before, he did not show any obvious compassion. On this day, the mother and son were in a market called Qingshan City again. This time the mother and son set up a street stall. On the stall were the skins, bones, and teeth of the demonic beasts that Liang Bao had hunted, and the meat had been fed with blood-eating demonic insects. In addition, there are elixirs refined by Dabao and talismans painted by Bao. Yuan taught them how to support themselves. If one day they lose their storage bag and have nothing on them, they can still think of ways to earn spiritual stones to support themselves. Yuan sat aside and it was completely up to Liang Bao to sell it herself, and she would not participate in it. She only cares about the safety of the two treasures. End of this chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 419. Chapter 419 The Mu and Yu Family. Liang Bao was a little nervous when he sold it for the first time, but gradually became less nervous. The second time, completely let go. The third time, they did it very well. 3 years have passed in a flash, and Liang Bao is 12 years old. The 12-year-old boy has an outstanding temperament, his young face is slightly resolute, and he looks like a handsome and beautiful boy. The voice also began to change. At first, Liang Bao couldn't bear to hear it, such a male voice. In the past 3 years, mother and son have transformed the world of immortality by 1/3. Mother, why don't we go back? Bao asked. Miss Daddy. Bao nodded. Where are you, Dabao? Dabao also nodded. Yuan counted the time and found that Mujukan had not left seclusion yet and would not be able to see him when he returned. Maybe it will disturb him. She took Liang Bao and said, "In this way, we will practice for another 3 years. Now when we go back, your father has not left isolation. It is still early for you to build the foundation. After 3 years, you will be 15 years old. It will be just right to go back. How about it?" Liang Bao thought about it and nodded. Yuan gave Liang Bao a sip on his face. "Mom, we are all grown up now, can you stop kissing me?" Dabao said awkwardly. Yuan laughed so hard that Dabao furrowed her 2 little eyebrows, looking disgusted and making her laugh. "So cute. The young ghost who is here is broken?" Bao stared at Dabao with a look of ignorance. He was just a mother-in-law, and he didn't care whether he had grown up or not. Mom said that no matter how old he is still her son. If mother kisses him every day, he will be willing to do so. How pretentious. "Mother, please stop laughing, what should I do if I get angry later?" Bao was really worried about Yuan, so he came over to pull her sleeves and put his hand on her back to help her. Okay, mother, if you stop laughing, what will you do if our eldest daughter laughs and cries?" "His face will be left for his wife to kiss from now on." Yuan stopped and kissed the second treasure on the face again, changing it to Dabao pinched his darkened face. Dabao's face turned even darker. Mom was really thinking about it? "Mom, please kiss my face again." Bao saw Dabao with a stinking face and moved his face towards him again. "Okay." Yuan held Bao's face and chirped a few times. Made Bao giggle. The mother and son played around for a long time before going into the space to sleep. No matter where she spends the night now, Yuan will not stay outside. The next day, the mother and son began their journey of experience again. Yu Heiran, the remaining clan of Juyo City, looked at today's income and was really overjoyed. Since opening a trading firm in partnership with Muse 3 years ago, there has been a big auction every year, and we have made a lot of money in the past 3 years. Tomorrow he plans to go to Chaoyang City to drive Juyo Trading Company to Chaoyang City. Chaoyang City is a large city with many monks, so business will be good if you drive there. There are 199 cities in the Qinjiao continent. Now Juyo Trading Company has opened 5 cities. He plans to open all the cities in the Qinjiao continent within 100 years. If the two families continue to develop like this, within 500 years, the Muyu family will surely stand at the top of the world of immortality and develop into a super family like the Rong family. After thinking about it, Yu Heiran couldn't help laughing anymore and went out to perform a sword dance in the yard. Mu clan, Mr. Mu's study room. Mr. Mu and Mr. Mu looked at the account books. The father and son were all smiling. "Dad, if our Mu family wants to develop, should we recruit some worshippers?" Second Master Mu asked Mr. Mu. Mr. Mu raised his head and looked at Mr. Mu, and said quietly, "You said it was a sacrifice, why did you ask me to come back to offer it? I feel unhappy when I see that I have earned spiritual stones. Since we are a family, I don't want anyone to tell the Mu family of." Mr. Mu felt heartbroken when he looked at his second son. He used to be an honest person, but he was allowed to gain knowledge and broaden his horizons, but what he did was to open his eyes to this kind of thing, attracting outsiders to his own home. Second Master Mu bowed his head and fell silent. This was not something caused by his son. The eldest son went out to practice and met a female cultivator. The two of them kept going back and forth, and they seemed to have the intention of becoming a Taoist couple. This female cultivator has only one father, and both father and daughter are casual cultivators. After getting to know her son, she knew that he was from the Mu tribe, so she wanted her father to join the Mu tribe as a worshipper. First of all, her father has a place to stay, and secondly, both father and daughter have a way to take care of each other in the Mu clan. Master Mu sounded good. His two sons had already passed the age of marriage, and finally they found a girl they liked. Second Master Mu happily accepted it. Thinking about it, it's not like the Mu tribe can't afford to support people now, not to mention that if the Mu tribe wants to develop in the future, they will definitely need to recruit a large number of people. I don't want to be scolded by the old man as soon as I say that. Uncle Mu saw that the second brother seemed to have something to say, so he touched the second Uncle Mu's arm and said, "Second brother, if there is something wrong, just tell Dad directly. If it's not too much, Dad is not unreasonable." Second Master Mu looked up at old Master Mu. Mr. Mu said with a straight face, "Young man, please tell me. If it's a matter of offering sacrifices, there's no need to say anything." Second Master Mu thought about it and said, "Dad, it's like this. Didn't the boss go out for training? She met a girl that she liked. That girl only had one father, so she thought of us, the Mu clan, as a sacrifice. In the future, I also have a daughter to take care of me." Mr. Mu didn't say anything after hearing this, but Mr. Mu spoke up, "Second brother, of course it's good if the girl wants to marry. It's fine if her father is willing to stay in the Mu clan. Our Mu clan can still afford to support one person, and we can still offer sacrifices and so on. Do not talk. Since when did this guy become so stupid that he can't see that the father and daughter have a purpose? Even if the marriage is not confirmed, people will be inserted into the family. What's more, the Mu people don't need offerings, so why use them? Just like what my father said, the Mu people don't need outsiders if they are used to dictate matters within the clan. It would be difficult for a family like this to grow up." Master Mu nodded and went out. "Dad, it's time for the two boys from the second son's family to worry about them. The second son is getting anxious," Uncle Mu said to Mr. Mu as soon as Mr. Mu left. "There is no point in being anxious. If you don't practice hard, you won't get anything if you just think about it. We are all like Chenner's family. I have long given up my hands and focused on practicing Mr. Mu's side. If a family wants to develop and grow, why can't it live without it?" The high-level monks supported him, and he also hoped that Chenner would be promoted to God transformation as soon as possible so that he could retreat and concentrate on his cultivation. He took a look at his eldest son. If he was in the Jindan stage, then this burden could also be given to his eldest son. "Let's go see the father and daughter tomorrow. If they are good people, bring them to me and have a look. If it works, let them get married." Uncle Mu nodded and said, "Okay, Dad." Their eldest family has grandchildren, but the second child is still single, so it's time to settle down. Tomorrow, the boys from the Yu family are going to Chaoyang City. It is necessary for you to go with me. Don't worry about anything else, but just run errands and do miscellaneous things. The boys from the Yu family are good people and will not treat us badly. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 420. Chapter 420, Watching a Opera. Uncle Mu nodded again. "You know, Dad, we still have to stick to their lights." He understood that in fact, the Mu family was all the lights of Wanyetu, and the members of the Mu family can use guns and knives. They don't have the brains to do business and make money. They, the Mu tribe, naturally cannot eat food that looks too ugly. Not to mention what happened to the Mu and Yu tribes. Yuan, mother and son came to a Grand Canyon that day. There were many people here today, and they all came to the cave of an ancient monk in the valley. I heard that a group of monks accidentally entered a cave a while ago, but before they could enter, they were thrown out by a monster guarding the cave. This group of monks went around looking for high-level monks when they returned. Not many people knew about it, but a long-tongued monk accidentally let it slip, and more people knew about it. By chance, Yuan, mother and son came over and heard about it, and came to take a look. As long as the things belonging to ancient monks can still be used today, they are undoubtedly not treasures. A group of monks shouted and rushed towards the entrance of the cave. Yuan led her son and walked slowly behind. From afar, her consciousness sensed the powerful aura in the cave and the fluctuations of the formation. She was sure that there should be a cave here. She was not in a hurry and let the monks in front take the lead. There are no Yuanying monks in front of them, letting them toss. Some are yellow birds. "Mom, why don't we go faster?" Urbeo asked. "Don't worry, use your spiritual sense to see clearly." Urbeo really released his spiritual consciousness after hearing this, and after seeing it, he knew that some high-level monks were fighting with a high-level monster. There are formations later. No wonder. Mother is right to tell you to watch more and listen more and not to act rashly. The situation is unknown, and if you go in now, you will just be a thug. The mother and son walked to the entrance of the cave. Yuan looked at the entrance of the cave carefully. It turned out that there was a formation at the entrance of the cave, but it was broken automatically after a long time. She said, "Why is there an ancient monk's cave in this not-so-secret place? I'm afraid it was fabricated by someone to harm people." In the world of immortality, there are endless ways to rob people, and this is a common situation. There is an ancient monk's cave somewhere. I made an appointment with a group of people to go explore it, but they never returned and became someone else's money delivery boy. Along the way, the mother and son saw a lot of people. The mother and son did not enter the cave, but stayed at the entrance. Many monks who entered later looked at the mother and son strangely. If you don't go in now, you will go in later and you won't even have a sip of the soup. But no one called them out, and one less person would get a piece of the pie. What's more, this female cultivator is not very weak. Actually, Yuan placed her cultivation level at the early stage of the golden core. Such people's cultivation level is neither high nor low, and they have no interest in their ideas. The appearance of the three of them, mother and son, is easy to come by. Who would care about these ordinary mother and son anymore? More and more people entered, and the fighting inside became intense. The monster probably wouldn't be able to hold on for long. An hour later, the sound of fighting stopped, followed immediately by the sound of everyone breaking the formation together. Yuan, mother, and son did not go in either. 3 hours later, the monks inside cheered, and then came the sound of fighting and cursing among the monks. "Okay, you attacked me from behind, and I wasted my trust in you. Humph, who are you in front of the treasure? Ah, you will not die well." Boom, 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 ah. The various sounds inside rose and fell with each other, never stopping for a long time. Boom. Following a loud noise, there was a loud noise in the cave, and the cave collapsed. The sounds in the cave slowly calmed down. Yuan raised her lips and smiled. After watching a live drama, the two treasures were also dumbfounded. There was someone who broke into the ancient monk's cave like this. Liangbao finally understood why his mother had to wait outside and couldn't go in to participate. Even if they are not crushed to death, they will not get much advantage. At this time, many monks came over. They took one look at the collapsed cave and left in despair. Slowly no one comes again. It was night. Yuan took the two treasures and escaped underground, and then escaped to the bottom of the cave before escaping into the cave. At this time, the cave didn't even look like a cave at all. Half of the mountain collapsed and was filled in. Yuan swept away with her spiritual consciousness, and found that many monks were buried in the rubble, and they were no longer breathing. However, there are still a few faint breaths, which are the breaths of those nascent soul monks. Yuan threw a small snake to solve the problem, and by the way, it collected all the monks' storage bags and rings. Yuan shook his head. The monks in Qinjiao continent basically don't know the 5 elements escape technique. If they know how, they will be crushed to death by stones. Of course, if the explosion hadn't injured people, even if the whole mountain came down, it wouldn't necessarily crush the Yuanying monk to death. They deserved their bad luck. When they met a monk who was desperate for his life, he self-destructed in a hurry and blew up the entire cave. Be ruthless enough and he can't get it? Or simply destroy it and no one can get it? However, it was easier for her. Yuan put all the boulders and soil in the cave into a storage bag and slowly cleaned it out. There are 3 stone houses in the cave, but Yuan only cleared out 2, one is a study room and the other is a medicine garden. There was nothing in the study that was usable. Yuan only found a spirit animal bag, a storage ring and 2 storage bags on a corpse. The elixirs in the medicine garden were smashed into pieces, and not a single elixir was available. Yuan didn't fill it back with the soil. The elixir still has roots and will grow out in the future. Let's leave it to those who are destined. Master, here, the little snake came back and handed the storage bag and storage ring to her. After Yuan put it away, he checked to see if there was nothing useful. After burying the corpse, he escaped and entered the space again. In the space, Liang Bao looked at the storage bag excitedly. Yuan was long past the age of unpacking storage bags. She was watching on the side and just took a look at something useful when she saw it. Mom, these monks have a lot of stuff, Bao said with a little pout. Have you noticed anything? Yuan asked. No, Liang Bao shook his head. There were many things, but not many really good things. If you are used to seeing the treasures in the treasure house, these things are just so-so. Well, okay, let's sort it all out, let's go out and find a place to sell it, and return the useful ones to the clan. Okay, the 2 treasures began to sort out. Yuan looked at the ancient monks' things carefully. There were even fewer useful things in them. They had been weathered over time. She felt a little regret, it was not worth it for those monks who died. If they only knew these things, they would not know how they would regret it. It's a pity that they are all dead. Yuan is no longer interested in these things, but the 2 treasures are different, and they have to experience all kinds of things in the world. That is to say, I have gained more knowledge and experience. End of this chapter.